What's up, everybody? It's Trey Smith, one half of the Blue Bloods College Game Time podcast. And tonight I want to talk about this defensive coordinator search at Notre Dame. Once again, I know I already made a video about it. I made one about Derek Mason. You already know he took the job at Oklahoma State. I know most people were thinking that he wasn't the right scheme fit anyways. I have a little bit different philosophy on that I'll even talk about in this video. But before we get into the candidate I'm talking about tonight, please hit subscribe. All right. Let's talk about Al Golden for a second. The current linebackers coach at the Super Bowl playing Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, so Al Golden, his name's kind of been in the mix of this DC search with Notre Dame. He's been on the list of, or he's been connected to Coach Freeman's list of candidates that he's looking to bring in. And I think at this point, with Mason being off the board, Al Golden is the guy. And the longer this search sort of stretches out and kind of plays itself out, makes me think even more, maybe Freeman is going to look to the NFL to bring this guy, bring his new DC in. And now that Golden just won, or that the Bengals just won, and Golden is now officially coaching in the Super Bowl, it might have to wait another couple weeks, or who knows, by the time this video hits and you're watching this, a hire's already been made. It's just kind of how it rolls. But I'm going to put this out there and say Al Golden would be the best hire for Marcus Freeman to make as his defensive coordinator at Notre Dame for the following reasons. Okay, first off, he's coming from the NFL, and he'd be coming off of a season where he just coached in the Super Bowl. Okay, Golden already had a good reputation as a recruiter. Okay, he coached at Miami. He was the head coach at Miami, the head coach at Temple. He was a coordinator at Virginia. He was an assistant at Penn State and Boston College, I believe. I mean, all throughout his career, he's never had a bad reputation as a recruiter. But then you come in and say, hey, I'm coming off of a season where I just coached in the Super Bowl. Just the perception of that alone holds weight. So I think that that's a big reason, the fact that he's coming from the NFL, which is where most of these players, if not all of them, that he's trying to recruit are trying to get to. So you talk about that developmental, and I know what it takes to get you here. But then on top of that, not only did I coach in the NFL, but I'm coming off a season where I just coached in the Super Bowl. And who knows, here in a couple of weeks, he may be able to say, I got a Super Bowl ring. So that's one thing. And I know he's not the coordinator in Cincy, but he is the linebackers coach, and he is a critical part of that staff and really what that team's been able to do in the last couple of years. So also, for those of you that say, well, the NFL's a different game than the college game. I mean, you're right, but does that statement carry as much weight now as it did even a decade ago? Especially offensively. Offensively, NFL football is mirroring what we see in college football more and more each year, with the exception of, say, the triple option, okay? Or with the exception of maybe where you have, I guess you got Lamar Jackson and what they're doing in Baltimore. They run a lot of that option, those option looks and different RPOs, but the NFL game looks more like the college game, especially on the offensive side of the ball, than it ever has in its history. So as far as what he's used to seeing week in and week out and what he's used to preparing for, I don't feel like there's going to be that significant of a change. Especially look at what the Bengals just did with the Chiefs. Okay, they held them to 3 points through a whole half in an overtime period of football. And like the Chiefs run a lot of different concepts that you see from the college game. I mean, that was the whole thing with Patrick Mahomes. They studied a lot of what Cliff Kingsbury did at Texas Tech when Mahomes was there. And now, speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, he's the head coach over at Arizona. I mean, that's where these offensive minds in the NFL, like teams are looking to college to get those guys now. So I don't think there's going to be as much of a drop-off. In fact, I think it could play to his advantage. Not only on the recruiting trail, but on the X's and O's side of things. Okay. And then finally, really to me, what I think is very important for Marcus Freeman to be looking for, particularly in a position at this coordinator spot, is a former head coach. Someone who has Power 5 head coaching experience. Look, I love the Freeman hire. Okay. And I have gone on record and said what I believe about the Notre Dame brass in making that hire, and I stand by that, and you can see that on a different video. But as far as me personally and how I feel about Freeman, I want him to do extremely well. I want him to do, become one of the greatest coaches in the history of the university. But I feel like in order for him to do that and to get off to the right start, he's going to have to bring in some experience. He doesn't have any head coaching experience. That's just the bottom line. He's a young guy. Players love him. But there are things about being in that head coaching hot seat that he is not going to learn until he's actually in it. You learn it through experience. And having someone right there on your right hand who can walk with you through that, okay, someone who can kind of give you some insight on what to expect and, maybe what to focus attention on, what not to focus attention on, things of that nature, which Al Golden can provide. I mean, I look at a guy like Sam Pittman at Arkansas and look at what he's done in the short time he's been there. And trust me, the Arkansas program was in the dumps. Pittman comes in, never been a head coach, makes it a point to hire a former head coach as one of his coordinators, and he brought in Barry Odom. And he talked about how critical that was to the team's, success they found in that first year, but then really the overall turnaround they've been able to do in the 2 years that he's been there. So I think that a combination of him coaching in the NFL and being able to say that he coached in a Super Bowl, he's coming off a Super Bowl season, possibly winning that Super Bowl. I think the fact that the NFL and the college game, at least on the offensive side of the ball, are not as disconnected as they once were. In fact, they're actually more closely mirroring each other than they ever have in the history of the game. So as far as what he's going to be preparing for, and then I think that the fact that he's a former Power 5 head coach. And look, he did some good things at Miami. I remember he brought in Michael Irvin to speak. He took that program over when it was a complete dumpster fire. Okay, when all the Nevin Shapiro stuff was going on, they pretty much got the death penalty without getting the death penalty just because of the perception of that program. He went in right in the middle of it and, tried to rebuild it. I'm not saying he had the long-term sustainable success, but who really has since all that happened? So I think he would be a phenomenal addition to the Notre Dame staff. I think he would be a phenomenal addition for Marcus Freeman specifically. And I think schematically, I think recruiting, I think experience, I think he checks all of those boxes. He would be a perfect hire. He would be able to come in right off the bat, blaze on the recruiting trail coming off a Super Bowl season. He'd be able to get into the scheme of things. Him and Freeman could work all that out. Again, I am not a guy that thinks with this particular hire that Freeman has to go find someone that is exactly in tune with his scheme, okay? You go find the best coach. You go find the best recruiter, you go find the best developer, and then you figure out the rest. I get it. Freeman's made promises to players. Things aren't going to change too much. You can still make that happen. But go get the best coach, the best recruiter, best developer on the board, and then together get in the coach's office and figure that piece out together. And I think Al Golden will be more than willing to do that. I mean, he's coming from being the linebackers coach at the Bengals, and to go become the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, I mean, that's a huge step up in my opinion, especially if you're looking to get back into the college game. So I think it could be a match made in heaven. I know my first one was Derek Mason, but he's gone, and I know I was wrong. But with the way this search is going and how it's dragging out, I wouldn't be shocked if Al Golden is the guy that will be wearing that DC title for Notre Dame Fighting Irish this upcoming season. So anyways, that's all I got. Let me know in the comments what you think. Who do you think is most likely? You may disagree with it being Golden. Let me know if you agree with it. If you like Golden, let me know. I just want to know your thoughts on this hire. Put them in the comments. You know me, I always try to respond. And until next time, I'll see you later. Please hit subscribe.